guys? Welcome back to Live from Nerds. Hope you guys are doing well today. We're going to be doing another reaction video. We're going to be looking at a video that basically stemmed the entire watch collecting community on YouTube, in my opinion. It's going to be another Talking Watches episode. We're going to be looking at John Mayer's first Talking Watches episode on Hodinkee. Like I said, this was the inaugural video that started the series of Talking Watches. It basically made watch collectors comfortable talking about their collections and realizing the stories of their watches were what was extremely important. That's what we're going to be reacting to today. We've done some other reaction videos. We looked at John Goldberger's collection. We reacted to that one most recently. So be sure to check that out as well. Also, be sure to hit that like button for John Mayer's collection, as well as subscribe to the channel if you are new here. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into the video. An old intro. You definitely know it's an older Hodinkee video. This was actually published in 2013.
Today we're here in Soho to talk to a watch collector. This watch collector is a guitarist, singer, songwriter, Grammy Award winner, and a friend of mine. His name is John Mayer, and today we're talking about watches. John, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So first question, what was your first great watch? How did you get into watches together?
My first great watch was a Rolex Explorer 2. I had the same experience that everyone else has when they first get a really nice watch. People always do this. Wow. And I think it's more than just the weight of the movement in the case and the bracelet. It has some other sort of a thing and you go, wow, you know, and that was sort of the beginning for me.
Are there any times that you think that you've lost, or any times that you regret buying a watch? Anything that you bought you just don't wear? Or?
Yeah, the first 12 watches. The first 10 to 12 watches where you think you're amassing a collection, you're not. Then, I think it was like a double red Seed Dweller. Then I kind of got it. It turned. That got me into old things.
All right, 122. So just for the intro, just to start there. So a couple of things that were really cool about this. John Mayer looks really young in this video. So does Ben Clymer. This was in a place called Little Prince. It's a really nice little restaurant cafe. I'd recommend going there if you aren't in New York. It's interesting that he said that first 12 watches he really doesn't wear, doesn't own anymore, just really doesn't touch. I think that's a very, very good point. When you're first getting into watches, a lot of the times you have to experience a bunch of different types of watches in order to understand what is important to you and what you want to have in your collection. I think it's not a common mistake within watch collecting. I think it's just a common trait of our journeys. You have to experience watches to know what you like and don't like. And I think him saying it here made us realize that was part of it. The Red Seed Dweller was one thing that he was like, I kind of I knew what was important to me in watchmaking. Obviously that has a little bit more of a vintage side, a little bit more of a, he likes the details of specific watches, and I think you'll see it in the rest of his video. So let's continue.
There's an art community. There's people who collect guitars. There's people who collect bottles of wine. There's people who collect cigars. You aspire to do well in life, and maybe you pick up a passion. There's always something to aspire to. I remember the first time I was at Cellini in New York and I saw a Lange & Söhne datograph, and it said 45 on the back of it. And I went, no, that's not for me. That's never, nope, could never. And if you're meant to sort of keep investing your time and energy and money into it, then you eventually sort of go, oh God, I did that. Oh God, I did that.
I think we've all been there.
I've had people not understand the watch thing. I've had to explain it to them 5 years ago, and now they want me to help them.
For sure.
Get the first watch.
Yeah.
It is actually contagious, and it does not have to accompany this sort of rich bitch lifestyle.
Exactly.
I clean up dog poop wearing a Patek. You can take something from a high style sort of culture and adopt it into your own culture.
I think also when you think about what watches were when they came out last century, I mean, these were tools. You know, these were essentially something to like get stuff done.
That's right.
And if you treat watches that way, then it's no big deal.
They were the iPhone 5 of their day.
Yeah, you just needed one.
It has a chronograph. That's like an app.
Yeah, that's useful.
It's like your app. Right. Right. A GMT is one of the world's greatest apps.
Yeah, for sure.
It really is. That's why we love these watches.
So what'd you bring with you on tour?
I'm only bringing about 2 watches on tour.
Okay, just before we get into his collection, 3 minutes into the video, I think the best quote from this video was, "I clean up dog poop wearing a Patek." I think it's so true. Like, you don't have to, like he said, you don't have to be in this luxury lifestyle. You know, you can enjoy these watches in your own lifestyle. It's not something that you don't have to move into a completely different way of interacting with other people and go and do these incredible experiences. You can just bring those watches and bring it into your own lifestyle and your own culture. And actually, I think it's encouraged if you do that, because then you will create the correct stories with those watches instead of trying to make up this oh, everyone does this with a Rolex Mariner, so I should be doing it. It's really, really an excellent point. Ben Clymer's point about how these were tools, I think this was another thing that kind of got people into the fact that these watches are tools and you should use them. And in the past, they were like that. People got into tool watches, and obviously dive watches have become extremely popular. And I think this was a contributing factor. So let's continue.
I'll show you one that I just got. This is the Patek 5164A.
Travel time.
They call it the travel time.
Yep.
It's a great watch, and I wear it on stage most of the time.
Tiffany dial as well?
That is a Tiffany dial.
I don't think I've seen that before.
The small
I
detail.
always like the rare inside. Look closer, but look closer, but look closer still. Look inside the A of Tiffany, and you'll see a small photo of myself as a child. You know. The other watch that it sort of competes with on this tour is the new GMT blue black. The GMT movement is Rolex's, I think, their greatest movement. It's the best contemporary watch that Rolex makes. And I feel like these two together are great contemporary, thoughtful watch collectors' watches that aren't like bringing Fort Knox on the road with you.
So you keep these on tour. You bring anything else? Bring anything old?
I'll show you the watch that I've worn the most since I hit the road. This watch is 10 years old now. It's the Big Pilot. This is the reference 5002. If you look from like 2002 to 2005 or 6, I'm wearing this watch on stage every single night. If you're landing and the local time is 5 because you landed in LA, you just, done.
You're there.
That's the fastest time setting I've ever had.
Yep.
Then you take it off to go to bed, right? And you take it off to go to bed and you put it on the nightstand. And it's a clock.
Got a giant clock.
You have a clock.
Okay, 439, just before we get into some of the other pieces that he has, looking at those 3 watches that he described there, I think his point about that Patek and the Rolex GMT being like a great 2 watch collection that is very well respected is a really great point. The Patek is incredible. Those are actually very, very rare, hard to come by. But again, like, you have to be into watches to really want that. The GMT, I think, is a similar thing, but just at a lesser price point. But again, like, you can enjoy those watches an equal amount, and I think that's what really makes them special. The Tiffany dial Patek, obviously, like I said, he likes the small details, and that's an example of it. And then the Iwc, that was a really important watch, and kind of has led to his kind of passion for Iwcs. He made like a whole series of the Iwc Big Pilot, looking at the past of it and looking at the collection that came out, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago. But that's a really big part of his kind of identity with IWC. I like his point about you can take it off and it essentially becomes a clock on the side of your bed. It's a very legible watch, quite big, but very, very legible. And I think that's something that a lot of people like about it. So let's get into this Iwc Cousteau Diver, because this was a very influential watch for me. It really captured my essence of loving a blue dial watch. Hint.
If you're a watch lover, sometimes the blue book value doesn't matter. This is the original Cousteau Diver's watch. I'm attached to it. I put it on every time I go on vacation and I'm in the water, and you just look at that dial, and it's really one of the coolest dials I've ever seen. And that just represents liking a watch.
Yeah.
It doesn't represent saying when I go to dinner everybody's gonna go, ooh, wow, what's that? And that's when you're really having fun as a collector. I think if you can have something like that and say you like it, That would be like being a Ferrari collector and going, I love the Ford Focus. Kind of.
515. So he was talking about blue dial watches, and I think it's a really great point that he made. I really fell in love with blue dials. This was kind of the start of it, and then it was in conjunction with a blue dial Submariner that I saw on Instagram. But I actually bought this Iwc yacht timer because I really fell in love with blue dials, and this was a watch that really captured me, both from the complication aspect, but also the color. Like I said, this video was very influential for me because that IWC really made me like, wow, I love blue dial watches. Those Cousteau divers are quite rare, so it was hard for me to find one of them. And also this was a lot more inexpensive than that watch. So it was a great first watch for me, and again, influential from John Mayer. Let's continue.
Off the beaten path as far as sport Rolex goes. It's a Comex 1680. As the story goes, they never went in the water because they weren't pressure rated to be able to go down as far as their divers were. So these were given to people in the office.
Yeah, these are really, really rare watches.
They're
you
really
see a lot of
rare.
like 5514s and 13s, but you don't see too many
No.
of these.
This is a watch if you wore to dinner, it's invisible to people unless they know what it is.
Absolutely.
Those are my favorite watches. Along with that Comex, the military sub, there's a 5513 and there's a 5517, and this is the 17. You love this watch, right?
I do. I absolutely love that watch. It's
It's,
one of my favorites. This is like the Grail Submariner. This is like the Mac Daddy Submariner.
It's the Mac Daddy Submariner, yeah.
It's awesome.
For a lot of reasons. Fixed spring bars, tritium dial with the T on it, custard hands that match the
It's gorgeous.
sword hands, and then the fully gradiated bezel.
Beautiful name.
Yeah, it's great. And the thing is too, you can still bang it around.
Yeah.
It's still a rugged watch. Someone else banged it around more than you ever could.
Big time.
People were crawling through the mud wearing that watch.
Yeah.
So you can wear it and hit a door jam with it. You're gonna be fine,
Yeah.
you know?
All right, 630. So I think that was a good example of John Mayer's Submariner collection. If you look at his Talking Watches, so the second episode that he did of Talking Watches, because he's done two, you can see a little bit more of his collection. This was obviously an impromptu meetup with Ben Clymer, but I think it shows like he's very knowledgeable about the history of submariners. I think that's something that we should take into our own collections, and I think from this we want to do as much research as we can on the watches that we are interested in buying. And he obviously knew a lot about these watches before, and he ended up purchasing them. Also, I think it shows the rarity aspect of his collection. Those submariners are very, very rare to find. Back in 2013 they were rare. Now they're even harder to come by because those who have them don't want to get rid of them. But I think this is a beautiful part of his collection. It kind of gives us an insight into another element of his collection. We'll watch straight through to the end, give you our thoughts on the last little bit, and then give you our overall thoughts on this episode.
If there's one watch you wanted to buy, and it's affordable in sort of the world of the relative pricing of vintage watches, it's not unique, it's not special, it's just great. And it represents this sort of centerpiece of all vintage Rolex collecting, which is
This is
the
another side of his collection.
6263 non-Paul Newman Daytona. And I almost would say black dial.
Yeah, you gotta go black. Black on black.
Yeah, there's something about that watch. It's the only vintage Daytona you'll ever need. If you wore this out, people would go, that guy knows what he's doing.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
It's one of the best watches ever made.
It's one of the
I
best
really believe
watches
it.
ever made.
Yeah.
The other one that sort of is its mate, I believe, in my opinion, is the 5970. And there's nothing special about either of these watches in that they're not double stamped. This one doesn't have Tiffany on it, neither of them do. There's nothing interesting about the dial outside of what's offered in the catalog. It's just sort of the Daytona of Patek.
5970, 3970 is as good as it gets.
As good as it gets.
It's just awesome.
And by the way, what makes it even more
It's so
special is
true.
as good as it may ever get.
Very, very true.
But they tell stories. I mean, that was my tour for 5-6 years.
Yeah.
That was me in Germany, jet lagged, tired, a broken shell of a man. Sometimes it just comes down to you and your watch.
Yeah.
And you go, can I please get a hotel room before the gig to sleep for 3 hours? And they dump you in a hotel room like you're in the Bourne Identity or something, and you just have this in your watch. That's really a bonding thing, you know? This is when I go away on vacations. I have great times. I have margaritas in the pool, staring at this watch, going like, wow, this is cool. It's not materialistic as much as people may think. You have to have these to say you collect. Who knows if it's a tick or if it's, you know, a blessing in some way or another, but people have that tick. I have that tick. I've had it since I was born. People say, well, I have the time right here. It's 1:58, and that's not what it's about. For me, I get into things very deeply when I get into them. I got into the guitar, and I never stopped. Yeah, it's excessive in some way, but there is an excessiveness to ambition as well.
It's so amazing. I love this episode of Talking Watches. So just my thought on those watches that were discussed in that last little section there. That perpetual calendar chronograph Daytona, or sorry, perpetual calendar chronograph Patek Philippe. It really is as good as it gets. That's a watch that actually became a staple for talking watches. Everyone wanted that watch or thought that was the best watch ever made, and it is hands down. I think if you have this type of, if you have a similar, watch collecting aesthetic as John Mayer, which a lot of the people on Talking Watches did, you will have this common idea. It's very interesting that he showed you that Rolex Daytona. This is another very important part of his collection. In his second episode of Talking Watches, he discusses a little bit more of his passion for Daytona, where you can see a lot more of the Daytonas that he has. But I think this is another glimpse into his very thoughtful approach to collecting vintage Daytonas. Obviously those, again, were expensive in 2013, but have risen in lore and expense in 2020 when I'm filming this. That watch there, he said, was just a great watch, and it's affordable in relative sense of collecting Daytona. Interestingly enough, I wouldn't say that is the case anymore, but it's a beautiful watch for sure. So my thoughts on this entire Talking Watches episode, I think one of the reasons why this was such a great first episode is because John Mayer is such a great storyteller. I think it comes from his artistic talents in creating song lyrics, but he's an absolutely beautiful storyteller. And I think him talking about these watches make us want to talk about our watches and tell stories about where we take our watches. You know, he said at the beginning, you know, these are stories, you know, where he talks about that IWC was his tour for many years. It basically captured everything that he went through during that tour. It's the same thing. I remember, just anecdotally, like, I took this by myself to Las Vegas. I remember being on Lake Mead and wearing this watch, and that's what makes this watch really special, is the stories behind it. And I think you couldn't have asked for anyone better to start a series where people are talking about the watches that they own. John Mayer did an excellent job here. It's one of my favorites. Again, like, it motivated me to get a Blue Dial watch. It motivated me to get into watches from an educational perspective, and yeah, it's just a beautiful episode. So hope you guys enjoyed this reaction video. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button for John Mayer's collection. This really does deserve a like, because John Mayer did an excellent job with creating this series that has become one of the most important series within watch collecting. I mean, there's, I think, like 53 episodes of this series now. So it really has grown to be an important part of watch collecting. Also, if you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button for us if you like these types of videos. And with that said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time.